Hey guys, RJ here, and 13 Reasons Why might be one of the biggest single surprises of the year for me. I thought the show looked kind of corny from the trailer, but now that I'm 3 episodes in, this thing is blowing my mind. They are putting this amazing message out there and wrapping it up in a great package to boot. I just absolutely love this show. Let's just go into our episode 3 review of 13 Reasons Why. As per usual, guys, if you have not seen episode 3 of Big Little Lies, turn this review off, go watch it on Netflix, then come back here. I don't want to spoil anything for you. We have arrived at episode 3, tape 2, side A, and it is Alex's turn to step up to the plate. Hannah is launching home runs on him, and dear Lord, I do have to say one thing first, though. The fact that Clay keeps going to all of these people, well, at least in this episode, Alex, he goes to him before he finishes the tape. Dude, everyone is telling you, listen to the tapes, first listen to them, and then decide what you're gonna do after. And I'm mostly joking around because I know that it's for plot purposes and storyboarding and stuff why they have him go talk to Alex first and the way they set up the flashbacks. But in general, I thought it was more of a funny thing. Dude, listen to the tape and then go ask people. One of the first scenes I want to touch on is the one where Alex, Jessica, and Hannah all meet in the office. It's a very cringeworthy moment, at least in my opinion, where Hannah's she sees Jess there. Jess is crying. She's clearly emotional over what I'm guessing is Alex, and that's probably the reason that she's there, and they broke up and stuff, and she still blames Hannah, I'm guessing. And pretty much we get Hannah is trying to interact with Jess. She's trying to put herself out there, hey, are you okay? And is everything all right? And Jess is, of course, really tort with her responses. And Hannah's just trying to throw an olive branch out there, yeah, you slapped me a couple weeks ago or however long it's been. Could we just go back to being friends again? So Hannah is trying to make inroads with Jess, just saying how are you doing? If you need to talk, I'm always here for you, and we can go to our office, which is Monet's. And she's we can just go there and talk. And Jess doesn't even get the joke at first. And I mean that, in my opinion, I think she's a pretty shallow human being, at least from what we've gotten so far. And obviously this whole thing is about not judging people, but she seems pretty shallow to me. She doesn't even remember their best friend joke that they had for a very long time. And it could not have been that much amount of time for them to be apart. So then, of course, to add to the cringe worthiness, Alex just walks in, and then Hannah locks eyes with him, Jess locks eyes with him, and then Hannah tries to once again break the ice. She's really trying here, guys. She's breaking the ice, hey man, and he's hey females, they're little jokes. But of course, Jess and Alex, they're still clearly emotionally distraught over their breakup, and they kind of have a little back and forth there for a minute. But I did love the overall office scene. I thought that was terrific, even if it did really make me cringe the whole time. I thought it was great. Then we get to move on to a scene in which Hannah and Clay are just hanging out, walking down the sidewalk outside of school. And, Hannah asks, are we working tonight? And I love the way that Clay responds, yeah, we're both working at 6. Not that I've looked at both our schedules, and I just love that little bit, and I like the way that Clay eventually gets up the courage, and he's hey, do you want to watch, I think it was a lunar eclipse or something like that, where the shadow is on the moon itself. I'm not sure which one it is, but yeah, so he's hey, go watch the moon with me, and they have a cute little back and forth. She's maybe even I'll howl, and of course she accepts, and yeah, I'm glad that Clay, at least a little bit in the past, was able to get out some of the way he feels. Clearly there was some stuff left on the table, and I'm sure we'll get some sort of closure or resolution to this at the end of the season, but I am glad at least at some points throughout this story he's actually been open with Hannah, or at least trying to move forward their relationship. Then we kind of get some really funky stuff with the counselor, right? The principal and counselor are talking to each other. They're just walking around the office talking about the lawsuit that's happening with Hannah's mom, and pretty much where that could go, how much money it could cost, how many people could be out of their jobs, and that's if they win. And there's obviously, this is very complicated from both sides. The Bakers are just trying to find answers as to why their daughter killed herself, and I also understand the schools, they're trying to keep it running, and they're trying to do, most of them are trying to do the best they can. And obviously with the amount of kids that are in school and stuff, you're not going to be able to catch everything. But I feel at least the way that a lot of people are acting in this scene, it feels there's a little bit of guilt there. The counselor brings up that he was just done talking to Alex and saying, he didn't really give me any information. He didn't really sell anyone out. And, he used to date Jess and stuff like that. And then now Jess is with Justin. And, they're trying to like tie these pieces together as adults. And I really do like the fact that they're trying to be like, so they were dating and they were dating. It's just funny for me to hear like adults talk about children this way and all of the drama going on. But yeah, that aside, so we get what I thought was probably one of the best scenes of the episode where the counselor's talking about Justin, that he was going to talk to Justin next, or Justin was first, and that he was going to maybe like follow up questions with him and stuff like that. But Justin is nowhere to be found. And this is because he's staying over at Bryce's. I mean, kind of using him as like a safe house. And just the way that the counselor is basically like reading this little like monologue about Justin and how he's had like a rough home and, multiple stepdads, and there's probably been abuse at home at some point. I do love that they're transposing that on top of the fact that Justin is walking through Bryce's house and he sees how rich this guy is, how rich this family is. He sees this portrait of all four of them as a family on the wall. He's walking through this giant house that he knows he could never have, at least until he gets older. And there was a lot of emotion in that scene. I almost felt bad for Justin for a while there because like he's not I would say he's not an evil dude. I feel like he makes bad decisions. And I know that all of our counselors or parents have told us that before. But in general, I mean, you can tell that like there is some good in him. We just don't get to see it enough to make him a good person. So then we come back to the very conniving scene of Mr. Porter and the principal talking, and pretty much the principal ends up asking him like flat out like, hey, did Hannah ever like stop by here? Did she ever give you a sign? Did she ever seem like she was going to do something like this, something drastic? Did she give you anything at all that could have pointed us in the direction? And I mean, he's not even doing it for her benefit, obviously, or the family's benefit. He's doing it, and well, they're doing it, I should say. They're doing it to cover their asses, which seems to be kind of the main theme of all of the other people in this show besides Hannah and Clay. Of course, Mr. Porter answers no, but as we see as the viewer, he, a few seconds later, pulls out his, what looks like, I'm guessing, his scheduler that pretty much every teacher or counselor on the planet has, and he's like flipping through it, looking at days, and then we see him fold up this page, and we see a date on it. It says October 10th. I don't know what that signifies. I don't know if that's like the day after or before a very large event. Maybe that's like the day after she killed herself. I don't know when that whole thing happened, but he folds it up and then he puts it in the trash. So, that could be a huge key as to what happened. But clearly, Mr. Porter does not give a shit about getting to the truth, about getting to the bottom of this, because he's partially at fault at this point. I mean, we're assuming, but I'm assuming that he is at fault for this because he throws away whatever meeting he had, which I'm guessing was with Hannah, and she probably gave him some sort of sign that he missed. Then we move back to a flashback of Clay and Hannah at the movie theater, and pretty much, Alex walks out. He looks really depressed from the movie, and well, I mean, not from the movie, but due to Jessica, he looks really depressed. He leaves, and then Hannah and Clay, clean up their area, and then they go up to the roof to watch the lunar eclipse or the lunar shadow, whatever he was talking about, and just the scene was so cute. They're like sitting there together. She like scoots a little bit closer to him just to get in tight, and they're both looking up at the moon, and then a few times there, like one of them would look at the other, and then the other one would look at the other, and I'm just saying like, God, just kiss her already. I think another really important part of this episode was the Hannah locker room part, where she walks into the locker room to confront Alex after the list has started, right? Everyone in the school knows about this list. It has best ass, best boobs, best lips, best legs, all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm sure we all had a list like this in high school. It is definitely, especially after seeing this movie, it should never be a thing. It can get way too many people with hurt feelings. And in general, clearly not a great idea if you're trying to start one of those. But so Hannah goes in to this locker room with naked dudes everywhere. Like, she does not care. She walks in, she walks to the back, she sees Alex, and she just gives him a piece of her mind. Oh my God, that was so tasty to watch him just like get totally chewed out. And then, of course, Clay over on the sidelines doesn't really do anything when he probably could have. And then eventually Hannah storms back out. And I really hate the ending to that scene where like all of the dudes are like coming up behind her, like trying to grab her ass. It's so crazy to me, like, to think back on high school. Like, did I know people like this? I really don't think I did. At least it's insane to me how crazy some kids can act without having any idea of the consequences of their actions. Ah, yes, let's talk about the hurricane, right? Hannah is walking into this convenience store that she goes to a lot. She says she always goes there after school to buy chocolate or something when she's feeling unhappy. And I do love that. And she ends up just like talking. She has like a cute little conversation with the store clerk. And I like the beginning of this scene. I was like, okay, like what could possibly go wrong in here? And then of course, Bryce shows up. And this is, I'm guessing, just a few days after the list or the day of. And so she's, getting her candy and she's going back up to the counter. And Bryce, one, stares at her ass while she's bending over to pick up the candy while he's like back getting beer. And then two, he comes up beside her, like initially acts like a nice guy, which I find very strange. And then like 2 seconds later, just reaches over and just grabs her ass. And she's like taken aback. And I'm kind of surprised, no one else was really in there. There's an old man behind the counter who clearly is, a little bit past his prime. So it's just amazing to me that like he could do this in such a public space and not care about it. So yeah, he grabs her ass and she confronts him about it. She says like, that's not okay. Did you just do that? And then he gets even freaking creepier. He gets like ridiculously close to her face and she's like, it's really tight in here. And yeah, man, that whole scene where she ends up, walking out and crying, totally understood. That is just so ridiculous. Talk about invasion of personal space and everything. Not to mention Bryce is just a giant freaking asshole, but yeah, man, that was really powerful. And to top off like Hannah's emotions and the anger and pretty much I can't even imagine what's going on inside of her head. She's had so much to deal with at this point in this school. And then she's walking outside. And I love the way that they do this scene. She's walking outside. They've done this a few times so far, but she walks outside and you have Clay standing there right behind her while she's crying, right? Because he's like it looks like he's seeing into the past, like what actually happened in this event. And then he kind of goes forward to, reach out to her and be like, hey, like, I'm here for you. And then a car flies by and then she's gone. That was beautifully done. This is like cinematography and flashback 101. These people have absolutely nailed every single flashback in this show so far. That was just really creative, the way that they ended up doing that. And I just love the way that they keep having Clay, like, look down on Hannah, like he's outside of the scene, like looking at her, even though she's not there. It's been great so far. And then Clay goes and meets Bryce in the convenience store, and Bryce like forces him to buy a beer, basically peer pressure. And then they walk outside, and then he's peer pressured even more because all of the boys, Justin, Bryce, pretty much everyone is out there, and they force him, Clay, and Alex to do a chug of a 40. It's, shitty malt liquor, and neither of them have ever drank before, really, or at least Clay hasn't as far as I know. So yeah, he downs that 40, and then Tony is watching him from the street. Clay tries to go up and confront him, but Tony has to leave really quickly. And of course, being the curious kid Clay is, he follows Tony, and he sees some real dark shit going on behind this like abandoned factory. Tony, I'm watching you, man. What are you doing? You need to be helping your friend here. He comes over, he's like standing next to the fence, and then he sees Tony just like absolutely just clocking this guy like over and over and over again. And Clay, is obviously taken aback. He's friends with Tony. Tony seemed extremely like kind, at least so far from what we've seen. And yeah, that clearly took Clay back. He did not expect to see something like that. And I guess don't go follow Tony into abandoned parking lots. So Clay comes home, vomits all over his parents. That was pretty hilarious to me. I'm sorry. Like, I know we're in a very serious show, but you gotta laugh when you can. So we end up taking that and we go to the final scene of the episode. And I gotta say, it's terrific, right? Alex is clearly distraught. He's hanging out with Bryce, Justin, all of them over at Bryce's place. They're all in there smoking pod. They're playing video games, just being, freaking idiots. And pretty much Alex walks outside after getting frustrated indoors, and pretty much he's walking along the side of the pool. And then, of course, the soundtrack starts playing, and man, they are just nailing these end songs for these soundtracks. And Alex is just walking along, and then he just falls right in. And for a minute there, I legitimately thought he was actually going to kill himself, and this was going to be the, butterfly effect, was that, Alex is going to go join Hannah. But yeah, so he falls in, and the music's playing. It's all very emotional. We see Clay like laying down on his bed and like waking up from his hangover. And yeah, man, there's just so much emotion in these scenes that they are nailing these soundtrack songs with. Just absolutely stupendous job at the end of episode 3. Anyways, guys, that is pretty much it for me. I cannot say enough good things about this show so far. Episode 3 just kind of continued on exactly where the other 2 left off. I really just have nothing bad to say about it. The acting's on point, the script writing's on point. I can't even get into how great the soundtrack is because I will gush all over this camera. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Do you guys like this show as much as I do? Like, I am seriously on the edge of my seat like every single episode, and I need to watch the next one like almost immediately after, but I've been resisting. So yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on the show as a whole down below. Like this video if you liked it. Subscribe to us here on YouTube. That helps us out the most. We have a bunch of social media links down in the video description as well. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Twitch and a bunch of other things. We do nightly video game streams that Miles does pretty much every night from like 8 till 12. And yeah, just let us know your thoughts on the channel so far. We're really starting to grow. We're really happy with where we are. And until next time, guys, we'll see you soon.